October 14th, 2003, Wrigley Field, Chicago, Illinois. The Cubs led the Marlins 3-2 in the National League Championship Series. They were up 3 runs to nothing in Game 6. The Marlins had opened the 8th inning with a flyout, but had a man on second after Juan Pierre doubled. 5 more outs, and the Cubs would go to the World Series. If you remember one thing from this game, it's this next moment. Mark Prior, who started the game, was still pitching. Luis Castillo was at bat, and the two of them had battled to a full count. Castillo then hit a foul ball down the line that left fielder Moises Alou may have been able to catch over the wall for the second out of the inning if fans, including the deeply unfortunate Steve Bartman, didn't get in the way. Bartman became the scapegoat for everything that followed, and there's a 30 for 30 documentary, Alex Gibney's Catching Hell, that does a great job investigating the reasons why. Alou's demonstrative reaction, excessive TV replays, and other spectators harassing Bartman all contributed to his infamy.
We're walking a fine line now, but a fan's getting out of control and doing something that they shouldn't do.
Curses and hypotheticals aside, the situation following the Bartman incident remained as it was before. Castillo at the plate, 1 out, full count. Nothing was worse, but everything was about to get worse because of, the Cubs. The first mistake was Prior's. The announcers had recently pointed out that the Cubs didn't need to call on their bullpen. Even after well over 100 pitches, the starter was still dealing.
He hasn't shown any reason to have any activity. Stuff's the same.
But once again, facing 3 balls and 2 strikes, the all-star pitcher's next offering was in the dirt. The wild pitch ball 4 put Castillo on first and let Juan Pierre advance to third. Here was a red flag. And here was another. Prior served Ivan Rodriguez an absolute meatball that Pudge fouled off, and then Prior gave up an RBI single. 3-1, 1 out, men on first and second. Now what? Now would Cubs manager Dusty Baker pull his starter who showed signs of wearing down?
And decision time now for Dusty Baker. Does he give the ball to Kyle Farnsworth in the bullpen, or does he leave Prior out there on the mound?
No, Prior stayed out there. For a split second, Baker's decision looked like the right one. On his first pitch to star rookie Miguel Cabrera, Prior induced a ground ball that had a decent chance to become a double play and end the inning until... shit.
And bobbled by Gonzalez, and everybody's safe.
Chicago's Alex Gonzalez, an extremely reliable veteran shortstop, had just 10 errors all year. He picked a devastating moment to commit one more. So, still 1 out. Bases loaded now, but not because of anything Prior did wrong. The starter stayed out there to face Derek Lee, who doubled on the first pitch. Tie game. Finally time for Prior to come out. Kyle Farnsworth entered, hoping to staunch the bleeding. He pitched around all-star Mike Lowell to load the bases, then gave up a sac fly to Jeff Conine. A pretty tolerable outcome considering the alternatives. The Marlins now led, but only by 1 run. 2 outs. So Baker had Farnsworth do it again. Intentional walk of Todd Hollinsworth to load the bases. Just needed 1 more out against Mike Mordecai, a guy off the bench who was having a pretty mediocre 7-3 Marlins. After another Cubs pitching change, Mordecai would eventually come around to score. And then, at last, after 8 runs surrendered, the most devastating inning in Cubs history finally came to an end. The broadcast, of course, left the inning more focused on the scene off the field than all the screw-ups that had just taken place on it. And it's a shame. This chapter of the Cubs' century-long tragedy is full of culprits, but Steve Bartman's name always gets top billing. Whether you believe in curses or not, that moment wasn't what made this top of the 8th the worst inning in Cubs history. It was the error. It was the delayed pitching change. It was the failure of a worn-out arm and the onslaught that ensued, and the eventual knife twisting when the Marlins went on to beat the Yankees in the World Series. It was all of that. It was an avalanche of failure, somehow overshadowed by the snowball that preceded it.